Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Sam. Welcome to this session that Scanning Pens have asked me to come and do for you. I've put special earrings on for you today. I think my eyebrow game is on point. I've sprayed my grey roots and I've actually put proper clothes on today. So you are about anxiety, um, and really hard work, as much information as I can. Hopefully, slides are going to come up. My background is I am an ex-Senko in a secondary setting, and then I'm also a cognitive behavioural therapist and a child and adolescent counsellor. But I kind of do a lot of freelance work walking around the world, not walking, yeah, well, it was flying, but anyway, I've been all of that. Let me talk to you about exercise message. What we're doing now. Okay. 10% of children aged 5 to 16 have a clinically diagnosed mental health issue, and SEN students are 6 times more likely to suffer from an SEN, from a mental health issue, unfortunately. And with ASD children as well, 70% of ASD children will have a mental health issue. It's usually based around anxiety. I'm just seeing messages got trouble with sound. So I just keep going at your computers. So apologies. Why is that? Why is there an issue and a problem with SEN and mental health? Such an increased statistic, I think. So, well, first of all, biology and genetics may increase vulnerability to mental health. So we know about neurodiversity, and a lot of things around mental health range are sort of depth in how our brain is wired and works. Really bad. Sorry, Sharon. I'm keep going. Also, if you have SEN, you have SEN, you are going to have a higher number of negative influence instances in your life. So things are going to be more negative because the world is not set up for neurodiverse students, which is unfortunate. And other people can have negative impacts towards you as well, which is an absolute shame and can make things difficult. Unfortunately, as well, SEN people are more likely to be at risk from abuse from other people. Is this still bad? If it is, as text is typing, I might try and swap my input microphone. And see if that helps. Is that a better sound for you guys at all? It's improved. Okay, so that's good news. So there's lots of reasons why SEN children can have mental health issues. Great, thank you. Right, I'm going to crack on. Let's make up for it. And they are more vulnerable generally. So this isn't going to come as a surprise to many of you. But in terms of rewiring the brain, look at this picture of the brain. And this is a representation from something from a program that I've done with regard to your brain is like a jungle. And like everybody's jungle, there are different pathways linking different parts of the brain. Now, with the neurodiverse brain, the pathways will be completely different to the neurotypical brain. However, there are still lots of pathways that we grow because of the way we behave in our practices. And these are sort of negative thought patterns we can get stuck into. But we can actually change pathways, let old ones grow over and grow new pathways. So any therapy or support that you put in place is very much linked to let's rewire the brain and let's rewire what we're doing with it. So there's things we can do daily as well with regard to support mental health of all children and students, but particularly mental health students. The most important thing is that we provide people the opportunity to be able to express their emotions and have their emotions be heard, okay, and not to dismiss their emotions, because it is important that we do hear them and hear what they have to say. They are also allowed to have negative feelings. Sometimes we feel that everybody has to be cheerful and happy all the time, and that is not the case. SEN students should be just as able to have negative emotions as neurotypical students and as ours. And their students should be heard, their feelings should be heard and listened to, and we should empower them to be able to express their emotions as best they can and talk about their emotions as well. Now, for some SEN students, they may be non-verbal or they may be struggling with communication. There are a variety of communication methods we can use when using interventions or when just having daily conversations with them about how they're feeling. Visual photos, emoticons are amazing. The Blob Tree book, I absolutely love just looking at it for myself. If you haven't seen the Blob Tree book, you need to look at the Blob Tree book. But also we need to model and discussing our emotions. And I think sometimes as professionals, we get a little bit caught up with, let's me show you how to manage your emotions and talk about your emotions, but I'm not going to talk about my emotions. And it's important that we say, I'm really struggling today, I'm having a bad day, it's very good for me today, I'm angry, I'm frustrated today. It's important that we do that. Here are some very simple examples of how do you feel today? And there's lots of art therapy. Margot Sunderland, Draw on Your Emotions. It's an amazing book to use art to allow children who may struggle verbalizing how they feel to express their emotions. And this is from the PECS Picture Exchange Communication System, which is used very commonly with non-verbal SEN students. So it's about providing them with an opportunity to talk about how they're feeling on a daily basis. Now, very often common with autistic students as well is OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder, which is a form of anxiety. But sometimes when you're working with ASD, autism spectrum disorder students, the key is that sometimes their repetitive behaviours, their stimming, is actually a reassuring thing for them. It's part of their way of grounding themselves and managing their emotions. So I'm just going to say that be careful when working with autistic students that you're not misunderstanding their repetitive behaviours. But as with many things, obsessional behaviour disorder is kind of linked to a form of anxiety. And what happens is in our brain, we worry about something happening, and then we develop this belief that if I do that, it won't happen. And it may be completely irrational, such as if I check the door's locked 5 times, then I would feel safe. But that link, that pathway in the brain that has been established, keeps on going and becoming more established and more well-worn and easier to go down. I hope that makes sense to you. So in terms of working with mental health of people with SEN, children with SEN, first thing we have to look at is not necessarily fixing the child, as it were. We don't fix anybody, but I think sometimes when working in special needs, we can become a little bit obsessed with making the child adapt rather than looking at the environment. You know, there's that whole school of thought. Is it a disability or is it the environment that's disabling them? So we still have to look at, if a student has a higher rate of anxiety or a mental health issue, are we contributing to that? Are we a causal factor to that? Is there a specific reason, a specific event that is causing them more trouble? And if that is the case, then we need to look at reducing the cause, because I'm often supporting the mental health of young people, but but not as a one-off. We also have to look at how we're contributing to it. So there's specific types of mental health intervention. You can have ones that address anxiety, which I'm going to give you some in a moment. General therapeutic techniques such as music therapy, relaxation, mindfulness, sometimes work, social stories, and is also involving families with regard to it. Because I found a lot of the case with anxieties with young people I'm working with are very often learned from parents or their family. So, like, I've worked with a child who is absolutely petrified that something's going to happen to their dog and is completely obsessed and worried about it. And you look at her mum's Facebook page, and all she shares is pictures of dogs being hurt, damaged, or getting lost. So, that is going to contribute to it as well, which is why we involve families. So we've talked about looking for the cause. Can you change the cause? If you can, then you should. If you can't, then we can look at things like CBT, cognitive behavioural therapies, where we change our mindset about it. Because that is one of the ways of dealing with sort of stress, which is linked to anxiety. Can you change the problem? If you can't, then change how you think about it so it doesn't have a negative effect on your mental health. Look for patterns in the behaviour of SEN students, and this is why, particularly more for non-verbal students, we need to look at have behaviour diaries and behaviour patterns. What is leading up to particular overwhelming and distressing sort of responses? Is it on a certain day? Or is it after a particular event? Is it after the weekend? So we can then start to look at, is there a reason behind the specific anxiety that we can then support with and maybe change that situation or provide the support when they come in. So, you know, I've already spent sort of 10 minutes talking to you that look at the environment they're in. This is just about fixing the young person that we're working with. And I don't like the word fixing anyway, because this is the key with anxiety. Everybody has anxiety. It is perfectly natural. It's part of our kind of fight, flight, freeze response system, and it increases a little bit of cortisol and adrenaline in our bodies so that we feel enhanced physically to deal with whatever threat we think is going to happen. All right. Now, the problem is when the anxiety becomes overwhelming, too many of those chemicals can damage us physically, but also it can stop us doing things we want to do. And with anxiety, what happens is we practice it and it becomes worse and worse and worse. So with anxiety, we talked about looking at the cause of anxiety, but we'll never rid anxiety for everybody, because some anxiety is necessary and an important part of our life. It keeps us sort of hyper-vigilant and prepared to manage things. So I am going to give you now some cognitive behavioural therapy strategies, very simple to use. And what cognitive behavioural therapy does is says kind of nothing is fact. Everything is based on our perception and how we think about things. If we, and is based on experiences and what is going on in our head. Now, if we can change how we think about things and change our perception from negative to positive, we will be happier and we will feel more prepared to deal with an anxiety or to deal with life. We will feel happier. So, honestly, the most simple, basic example I can give you, if you see somebody walking down the street and they're talking, that you wave at them and they don't wave back, you say, oh my God, I look so stupid now. But if your instant thought is, they're not talking to me, I've done something wrong, it's a negative thought, okay? What happens is next time you will see them, you're more unlikely to talk to them. That means you're not talking to each other. So the outcome was what you thought it was. If you have a positive thought based on, oh, I hope they're all right, that's not like them not talking to me, you'll see them, you go, I waved at you, you didn't wave back. I felt like such a banana here. So They go, oh, I'm really sorry, I was concentrating. You're still talking to each other. So the perception of what you think initially affects how you behave. And it's about changing it from a negative to a positive perception. So very, very much with regard to anxiety, a lot of it is based around low self-esteem, that we believe we cannot deal with a situation, that something bad is going to happen and we cannot deal with that situation. So low self-esteem, and we remember we talked about at the beginning, kind of one of the reasons why SEN children and people with SEN are more likely to suffer with a mental health issue is because of negative life effects. So you are going to be in a situation in an education system where you cannot do the same things that neurotypical students do. So this is going to damage your self-esteem. So one of the biggest things we could do to support with anxiety is improve our self-esteem and improve our belief in the fact that we can deal with the situation. I have the ability to manage the situation and it will be okay. So on a regular basis, and you need to do this for yourself as well, you need to be saying to yourself, what am I proud of? What are my achievements today? What are nice things other people say about me? And if you're in an education setting, a really simple way of doing this is doing a round robin to staff saying, could you send me something really nice about Joe today? Because I'm going to tell him things I like about myself, happy memories and people I like. And this really does make a difference, I promise you. Then we have one of the best rationalization processes for anxiety. And I've put this here on a slide, but you could put this into a form to ask them to fill in. You could put it into a table using language that is more suitable to their needs or the level of understanding or their age. You can modify this. That's what modifying is. So let's rationalize it, because what often we do with people who are having anxiety is we say, oh, don't worry about it, it won't happen. And it's like, great, yeah, I feel so much better. Oh, no, wait, I don't, because that doesn't work. And you're trivializing how I feel my anxiety. So you need to go through this process and teach them this process for themselves. What am I worried about? How many times does it actually come true? And how many times is it not true? So let's turn the language around, because the language we use with regards to any mental health and in life is very important. So instead of thinking it might come true, how many times has it not come true? And for many of us and many students with their anxiety, it's hardly ever come true. So saying to your brain, you know what, 99% of the time it doesn't come true, already start to feel different. Okay, that it's very unlikely to come true. And one of the worst things we do with anxiety is we catastrophize outcome. So the more we catastrophize the outcome we think is happening, the increased our anxiety, the level of anxiety increased in us. So then we say, right, well, what are you going to do if it does come true? What is your plan? What is going to happen if it does come true? And is it going to be as bad as you think? And really, in the vast, vast majority of cases, it's not as bad as you think. So then when you have this anxiety next time, you sort of say to yourself, right, what am I worried about? Okay, how many times does it come true? Well, not very often, actually. Most of the time, it doesn't come true. And if it does come true, this is what I'm going to do. And I will be okay. I will be okay. Because our brain tricks us into thinking awful, awful things. And we have to retrain our brain, rewire our brain to rationalize it and bring it down and not get into a panic. And this is a technique I use on myself as well, and reminding myself, no, don't get over catastrophize, don't overthink it. If you're having, or a student's having anxiety about a big event that is coming up, and it's something they have to do, so this is quite a good one as well for coming to school or returning to school after a long absence. It might be useful when we go back to school after the COVID's finished. and you break it down into small steps. So I'm told, I haven't got a clue personally, that when you run a marathon, you don't go out and run 26 miles. You start running it like a mile at a time and building up. And that's what this is. Break it down. What is my first step? Maybe come to school for an hour, maybe just come to school and leave straight away. And plan for each step so it doesn't feel so overwhelming. And again, talk about it, plan it, so that the person that you're working with feels prepared. This could be any sort of transition thing, any exam system, preparing for, I don't know, doing a talk in front of other students, anything. Break it down into small steps to crack on. If you have students who have sometimes display of anger, because anger is very much linked to mental health and anxiety. So I feel that when I'm getting anxious, I can kind of display it in being short and angry with people. So it's about providing them with alternative ways to think. People don't learn from just being told how not to do it. They learn from discussing what's an alternative way to behave and practicing that and rewiring the brain. So this is one that can help support changing the thought on angry. Why does it make me angry? Then we have a similar one about choices. If an SEN student behaved in a certain way that had a negative outcome, let's look at what else I could have done. And this isn't you telling them, this is about empowering them so that they learn the strategy and the technique of how to do it for themselves, because this is very much what we have to do. This is a problem solving skills. I believe the slides will all be made available to you so you can have a look at it, through them. And it is a case of walking them, talking them through it and letting them answer the questions where possible. Now, remember with CBT, and we are rewiring the brain, and any sort of new behavior modifications, changes, I don't like the word behavior modifications, but anything like that, practice is needed. We have to let that old pathway grow over and the new one be established, and we have to use it more than often. Just pick one or two strategies at a time to learn, to let them embed before you do something else. In CBT, there is no failure, there is only feedback. How do I know to do it differently next time? And we all need refreshers and reminders. I have to do that for myself as well. Social stories are also great for anxiety, particularly younger children. You don't know about social stories, I'm sure you all do because you're SEN, but they're amazing. And there's a slide and there's some link there, because telling the story of what's going to happen beforehand can reduce anxiety. It's almost a form of visualization for someone. So I thank Scanning Pens for employing me here today. I'm going to take some questions in a minute. And I work for Scanning Pens now and then, which kind of think, how is that linked to mental health? Well, it is, because Scanning Pens have such a lovely ethos that they want to support all SEN children and adults. It's not just about whether they're reading pen or not, which is excellent, because the reading pen allows people to work independently. And also, the more independent you are, the better mental health you are as well. So do have a look at them. They're doing Succeed with Dyslexia, and they're doing a Dyslexia Festival March in 2021 online as well, March 29th, which looks fabulous. After this session, I will be going on their stand virtually. So if I don't answer any questions, or you want to ask something separate, please come and have a look online on the stand with regard to that. Just a quick thing about me, I do have a book out about mental health, and my next book I'm currently writing is specifically going to be about mental health for SEN students and give you lots of practical examples. So if you want to get in touch with me, please feel free. Any questions or comments? Look at that, 5:21. Me and my timekeeping spot on. They said keep 5 minutes for questions. Does anybody have? Oh, look, now I'm bigger on the screen now. So let me just, have I got anybody? No, it's fine. That's good. Can you share the slides very quickly? Absolutely, Stephanie. And I'm really sorry. I kind of had to have 30 minutes in it, but I believe the slides will be shared, and Tes should tell you how to do that. So please do that. Any other questions? Judy said about empowering. independence. Look, independence is huge. Independence, I could have done a whole session on the importance of independence and the research about independence with working with SEN children, giving them the tools. And it's like we want to do a lot for them, um, but it doesn't always help them. We've got to help them do it themselves. Samantha, is the book listed the one for SEN? No, the book I've listed is for all students, day-to-day practice. I'm hoping the SEN one will be out later in the year. Thank you, Margaret. My book, Belinda, is called, oh God. It's called Mental Health in Education, Building Good Foundations. If you Google Samantha Garner and mental health in Amazon, it will come in, and you'll be able to see it there. I should know. Thank you, Angela, for that. No other questions. CBT strategies are amazing. They are really, really good. And you can do all these online, have conversations with them. Very much, I know a lot of you are being really resourceful, adapting things online with regard to supporting SEN students. That's a good. Thank you for your lovely comments. I've got 3 minutes left. As I say, I will be on the scanning pens. How do we support students where incidents are real with child abuse? With child abuse, I would call up some specialist organisations such as the NSPCC, Samaritans, Bernardo's. It's a little bit complicated, but what you can do day to day is be there and listen to them and believe them and acknowledge what they're going through, because sometimes what we do is try to cheer them up, but we need to hear them, we need to be with them and help them to contain their pain, and be heard. That's the main thing that we can do. That's the magic thing for mental health. Should a layperson be cautious about using CBT techniques? Not if you're just following the procedure, because CBT, one of the best things about it is it's more you are a facilitator, not a therapist or an analyst. So if they don't want to engage, they won't engage. And just by asking them those questions, you're not going to do any damage. So with cognitive behavioral therapy, the side effects are very limited, and it's one of the least intrusive therapeutic interventions. Okay, so I think I've got 1 minute left. Somebody asked me would that be the same for bedwetting? Yeah, you need to look potentially at physical causes of bedwetting, but there are some, I think NSPCC do some really good stuff to help with that. So if that's it, I'm really sorry. I feel like I've been with you like 2 minutes, and terrible. Helping the child breaker going to the toilet session, that is a causal thing. Why don't they want to be in the session? And actually addressing what is it you're worried about, and what could you do with what you're worried about happens. So giving them the plan of what they can do if their worry comes true. Can I look at the early message with slides? I don't know how you're going to get slides, Margaret, but I believe that the slides will be made available. I'm hoping somebody from Tes is going to come in. Natasha, what was the name of the emotions tools? I'm not sure. Do you mean the emoticons or the? Thank you, Judy. You're right. The blob tree is a really, really good one. Very much so. Or any emoticon cards. Okay, so I will knock off. Look after yourself in COVID. Do what you need to do. Sleep a lot, because it's very tiring managing all this change and stuff that's going on. So thank you, guys. Thank you to Andy and Matt in the background. I'd like to thank my mum and dad, and have a good weekend. Take care, everybody.